Yeah, it's been a while, sorry about that, but we're back, finally talking about Godzilla again. Well, Godzilla and friends, really, because we are going to be taking a look back at the entire Monsterverse, all 5 movies and 2 shows. I was going to do a ranking at first, but after rewatching them all, I realized how difficult it actually was for me to rank these projects. So instead, I'll just order them from favorite to least favorite throughout the video. Forget the S, A, D tier ranks for these beauties. Starting off, we're going to go back to the beginning, 10 years ago. Wow, 10 years? Wow. Gareth Edwards' Godzilla 2014 is such a weird movie among the always welcoming and never ever once slightly toxic Godzilla fanbase. On one hand, I hear people praising this tonal and cinematic beauty, and on the other hand, there's not a lot of Godzilla, so I hear people constantly hating on it because it's too boring, maybe it's too dark, maybe the characters aren't interesting enough, maybe it did a terrible job at creating a Godzilla experience, I don't know. But weirdly enough, being a Godzilla superfan over here, my favorite thing about this movie is that Godzilla is barely in it. That is, my favorite thing about this movie is how sparingly Edwards uses Godzilla. He builds up tension and anticipation throughout the movie, making every split second the G-Man is on screen count to the fullest. The cinematography is hands down what makes this movie so special as well. The monsters are so big that they don't even fit the frame unless they use an extreme wide shot. It's great. It's not only the fact that they don't fit in frame though that makes this good, but it's where the shot is positioned, how the pieces of the kaiju move throughout the frame. It's a gorgeous looking movie. I mean, come on. Even the haters of this movie can't hate on the Halo jump sequence. It's perfect. Talking about humans, because that is such a big complaint from most people for most of these movies, but they're actually not bad in this. The first 15 to 20 minutes of this movie is actually an incredible human story, and it is consistently mysterious and interesting. And then, the thing happens and Ford Brody ceases character development after this for the rest of the movie, and the performances are a little bland at times, but it's never really that boring. And the movie is still really great despite this, but the humans are pretty dumb here, I'm going to be honest. How did you not see a giant hole out of the mountain on the way over here? Or how about the giant monster crawling its way to Vegas? Anyway, it's okay. One last thing, the score is an absolute banger, okay? I'm just saying. But that's 2014 in a nutshell. We'll place it here on the list, I know. You know so much about where this place is now, but just be patient. The next film in the franchise is a prequel. Not a prequel for Godzilla, but really a prequel for Monarch. This is Kong Skull Island. I really love the humans in this movie. I'm just gonna say, I never once wish I was not watching them because I'm actually having a really good time watching them make stupid decisions like classic monster movie humans do. Worst death ever. Or could be the best death ever, depending on how you spin it. Also, I really appreciate the inspiration from the original King Kong playing such a huge role in the first Monsterverse Kong movie. Kong is a victim of man's greed, and that theme more or less remains here, only this time Kong triumphs in the end, and the message becomes about respecting nature, which was, I guess, also part of the 1933 Kong movie. There also is still this element of a man that's obsessed with some idea so that he takes everybody on a boat and gets marooned on Skull Island. It's not so much greed, but more the need to prove something, which I guess you could spin into greed, which we get even more context for his motives after watching Monarch Legacy of Monster. I'm talking about Bill Randa, by the way. He's even recording video the whole time like Denim in 1933. It's great. People talk about the cinematography of Godzilla 2014. I mean, rightfully so, but I never really hear anything about the cinematography of the rest of the Monsterverse, which is all great. And Skull Island is a particularly beautiful looking movie. The jungle and tropics of the island are gorgeous, and the monster action is shot well again. Very different from 2014, but in an equally valid way. That's Kong Skull Island, and I probably like it as much as Godzilla 2014, but since I have to order it in some way, I'll just put it slightly below 2014. The next film is Godzilla King of the Monsters. A movie that is just as confused in its own tone as Manila was in his own existence. 1 second we get insanely epic monster scenes, followed by the most boring human drama you will see in a Godzilla movie, followed by a very serious discussion of absolutely goofy Goji exposition. Then Jake Peralta's dad will make a beer joke or two, serious comments back at the joke, dramatic sacrifices, goofy Goji, boring humans, serious Goji, unbearable humans, insanely epic Goji. Listen, I'm not saying you can't have comedy if the movie is serious, or you can't have serious drama if the movie is a comedy. It's just that it needs to be balanced well. And this movie just doesn't balance it well. It feels like it's just making up the tone as it goes along. But, and this is a big but, the monsters are just so awesome that this movie becomes just too insanely epic to let any of the downsides stop me from having the time of my life with this. The music is, just outstanding. Like, come on. The action is outstanding. The callbacks, the Easter eggs to the other Toho Godzilla movies are outstanding. I love it. The idea of mind controlling the Titans reminds me of, the Ghidorah Showa movies. I love that they call Ghidorah Monster Zero, and I love how they characterize Ghidorah with Ichi, Ni, and Kevin. My biggest disappointment with this movie is from the Mothra twins, or lack thereof Mothra twins doing anything significant in the story except existing, kind of. In fact, the Mothra twins will remain my biggest disappointment with the entire Monsterverse until they actually do something good with them. But yeah, that's King of the Monsters. I complain, but this movie is so epic for me, so I love it immensely. So we'll just put this behind Skull Island. Adam Wingert's first Monsterverse film, Godzilla vs. Kong. This movie is fun, and it was great to return to theaters with this movie, and I'll always have that memory, and I guess this movie will kind of mean something special to me in that way. You've probably heard it before, but yeah, half of the humans are fine, the other half could have been deleted entirely, and the movie would have been no different. And then there's Gia, and she's just great. One thing I will say about this one is the last time I watched it, I remembered it being a lot more even. The fighting, that is. Like, I remember there being significant ground for both sides to lean on for the argument of why their favorite kaiju actually won. But, oh wow, I don't know why I remember this, because, and this is not just me being a Godzilla fan here, but Godzilla, he completely destroys Kong in this movie. First round in the sea, Kong gets a couple hits in, but Godzilla completely destroys him. But you know what? I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because this fight is so rigged. I get it. Not only is Godzilla an aquatic kaiju as well, and Kong is just not, so fighting in the water creates a clear power separation here, but Kong also just woke up from being drugged. To put it into perspective, let's think about it like this. Have you ever woken up from surgery, maybe, let's say that, and everything is so fuzzy in the moment, but then later your family tells you about all the weird things you said and you have absolutely no memory of it? Now imagine that state of after just waking up from surgery. You're not going to remember any of this because you're so fuzzy. Now that state, but being thrown into the ocean and forced to fight a crocodile while you're tied to a canoe. Because that's basically what the fight was like for Kong. So yeah, obviously he lost. Mini rant over. Godzilla vs. Kong is fun, and that's about it. But that's absolutely okay because that's all I really need it to be. That's all it needs to be. However, that being said, I do like all the previous Monsterverse films more than GVK, but I still love them, so I'll put them there. Now we get to the first TV show of the Monsterverse, the animated Netflix series Skull Island. Let me tell you, it was smart not putting Kong in the title because Kong is barely in the show. And not in the, Godzilla was barely in this Godzilla movie way, because with that argument, Godzilla still has a presence in most of his movies, even when not on screen, he plays into the story. Okay, but this show is not about Kong until the last 2 episodes, which is fine. It is okay that they are doing stories about other pieces of the Monsterverse besides the main monsters. In fact, please do more. Please make a Mothra movie. Anyway, that being said, the story they actually have here is not that good. I've seen worse. I've seen far worse, but at best it's passable. And the only good full episode is probably the Kong flashback episode. So for trying to bridge away from the main kaiju that they've gotten used to, they don't actually do that while also not making it about the main kaiju. The only thing that they have that's actually semi-good to lean on is the main kaiju that they bring at the end of the show. I wouldn't call it a success in what they were trying to do with it. I don't know if I would say it's the biggest failure I've seen, but I feel like to classify it as a success of a show is completely in and of itself inaccurate, but that's okay. Anyway, the animation is pretty choppy, but I'm not saying that sitting here and claiming I could do better, but it definitely would have benefited from giving the animators more time and money to spend on this, but oh well. I'll say this. I thought this was only a mini-series, so the ending of episode 8 was so abrupt to me. Will they get a season 2? Who knows? But for now, the show is definitely at the bottom of the Monsterverse in my order. Now comes the second series and the first live action show, Monarch: Legacy of Monsters. Listen, before I say anything, overall I did really enjoy this series actually. The very few moments Godzilla is in the show They go all out and make Godzilla have as big of an impact as he can. Now, the humans, because as a TV show, they are even more prevalent than in any of the movies. So they have to be good because with a 2-hour movie, you can write off bad humans, right? You can be like, the humans suck, but it was 2 hours and I got a lot of monster action, so I was okay with it. Whereas this is 10 hour-long episodes. Mostly humans. So there's the monsters were cool, so I like the show. The monsters are barely in the show, and it's pretty much all human drama. So if you don't like the humans, you don't like the show. Now, the humans are on a spectrum for me with this, because part of the show is just mediocre to me. A small part is just really not good, and a significant chunk I believe to be the best of the Monsterverse. So it's kind of all over the place to me. The post-2014 timeline with Kurt Russell is really all over the place. One second I'm enjoying it, the next I don't care, and then the next second I'm finding the characters to be super, super, super annoying. And it's this dance back and forth for most of the series. All of the series, I'd say, until the last 2 episodes, and then I like all the characters randomly. Kurt Russell's great throughout, though. So there's that. The past timeline, although I guess they're both in the past from the present Monsterverse at the time, because I don't even know when it takes place, but even 2014 is in the past from where the Monsterverse is currently at when the show came out. Interesting. Anyway, doesn't matter. I'm confusing. The Wyatt Russell timeline in the 1950s and beyond is absolutely incredible, in my opinion. The 3 leads of this timeline do a great job, and I'm always interested in what they're doing. And because it's a dual timeline show, when the timelines eventually do meet up in the narrative, it is an incredible moment, great scenes, and the music, wow, the music. It's just so good. And because of this, it ends up being a pretty solid show. Now, I'm placing it here, because while I think it is of higher quality than King of the Monsters is just insanely epic, and I love it, so let me love it. Anyway. Finally, we get to the latest. I feel like people never say newest installment. It's always latest installment. That was my bad. Finally, we get to the latest installment. I never made a review for this movie. I was busy. I'm sorry. Eventually, it just was so late that I just pushed my discussion of this movie to this video. And here we are. In fact, this video is super late too, but you know what? It's all good. I can make videos when I want to make videos. It's fine. Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. Adam Wingard's second Monsterverse movie. And honestly, before this movie, I wanted another filmmaker to give the old Goji a shot in the Monsterverse. And while I still do want that, after watching this movie, I'd be more than happy for him to make another one. I'll say it, I absolutely love this movie, and I think you might have gotten that when I said I'd be happy with him making another one. The second time I saw it, I did luckily get to see it in IMAX, and that was just such a great experience. That was awesome. Adam Wingard clearly has a lot of love for both the history of Godzilla and Kong, and all the beautiful references to both of the characters just show it. I loved the father and son type moments between Zuko and Kong. It's so nice, so wholesome, especially probably the most wholesome moment of the entire movie was Kong picking up Zuko, and it was just so beautiful. Oh man, I tear up when I think about it. It's just... Anyway, the scene is Kong, he picks up Zuko and he uses him to fight against other apes as a nunchuck and then throws him at another ape, all while Zuko is screaming bloody murder. It's just so beautiful. Okay, legitimately though, probably my favorite thing in the entire movie. And before I get back to the monsters, let's discuss the humans. It's no secret that the Monsterverse humans have been less than interesting, as we have already discussed, but this movie really remedies that, I feel. Sort of. I never feel bored watching the humans, and they have a lot of really fun moments actually. Especially Dan Stevens as Trapper. He was clearly having fun with it, and it reflects on the audience's own enthusiasm. Gia and her mother's story is also a pretty solid emotional drive to the human plot. And while Bernie was very uninteresting in the last movie, and in fact he was half of the humans that I said delete, and the movie's no different, I actually enjoyed his dynamic with Trapper in this one, despite Bernie being an idiot sometimes. Like, sir, stop narrating your footage. That's part of your video now. That's why you do it after. It's okay. It's just a movie. No need to get too upset. Anyway, there's a lot of exposition delivery from the humans too, as with all of these movies. But there's also so much monster presence in the movie that it all balances out, and I don't ever feel like I'm watching too much human drama in this monster movie. So yeah, the monsters, back to the monsters. Oh my Goji, the monsters are incredible in this movie. All the cuts back to see what Godzilla's up to in the movie is just, it's insanely awesome, keeps the hype going. Tiamat is, copyright-free Manda for Legendary, but Tiamat is still epic for the brief and brutal battle scene. Yes, Godzilla's evolved form is super awesome. And yes, it might be my favorite Monsterverse Godzilla design, but I won't confirm that yet. I don't know, maybe I'll do a Godzilla design tier list or something sometime, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, the pink looks so good. And Scar King, you know, he may be a fraud because he's actually pretty weak on his own, but they characterized him very, very well, and I really enjoyed him as the villain, but I also hated him for what he did to Shimo, because Shimo is so cute, and I just wanted to give her a hug because I felt so bad for her. Like, Scar King, what's wrong with you? You're a jerk. Anyway, it's okay. And I just loved that moment of her looking around at Godzilla and Kong in the final battle, just all like friends and all. It was beautiful. Also, Mothra is just the best. And that doesn't change with this movie. It's just the way it is. I don't make the rules here. It's just that Mothra is just the best. And I can't do anything about it. I'm sorry, I tried, but it's not up to me. Placing this in the order, honestly, it was about halfway through my first watch that I realized this might be the case, but I held off. A couple weeks later, I rewatched it, and my suspicion, it was confirmed. I felt bad, but I couldn't hide it no more. This is my favorite Monsterverse movie. So much fun. The humans are enjoyable and are balanced with the monsters. I feel like I didn't talk a lot about Kong, but he is the heart and soul of this movie, and I'm here for it because, you know what? I love my big ape boy too. You know, he's beautiful. The music and needle drops are just absolutely bumping and just makes for a really, really fun time. This movie is just so much fun. It's my favorite because out of all of them, this is the one that made me smile the most. I felt like a kid just smiling, cheering, and excited about a Monsterverse movie. Much like the emotions I get from some of the Showa movies. Obviously a little different because I'm a tokusatsu fan over CGI any day, but still, it achieves a similar effect, and there's just something really special in that. Thanks for tuning in. I've been Shin Glassman along with the call to subscribe, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.